But that's politics. Cynthia Davis on line 3, Lieutenant Governor candidate in the Constitution Party, right, Cynthia?
Right, but I wanted to tell you about the caucus last week.
Let us know.
Well, I was there, too, and it did seem like first thing, there's a police car parked out in front, which sends the wrong message. These are good citizens. We're not criminals. We're nice people. We're part of the solution. And let me just say, I was also there 4 years ago when we had the caucus as a Republican committee woman. And I was there when Brent Stafford was elected to run the meeting. And there are a lot of people who are like, what's so scary about him? He ran it fair, he ran it square, he ran it honest, and there was no problem. So we had an opportunity to select somebody who had run the meeting before and did a fair job, and the powers that be wanted to guarantee that there'd be no way he could ever run it again. And it was based on nothing but fear of Ron Paul. You know, this fear of Ron Paul is what's going to ruin the country because we have to be open to the ideas. It's not like I have a favorite, but what I do look at is who's principled. And if we can't get fair and honest and transparent elections on the Republican committee level, how do we expect it to happen on a bigger scale?
No, you're right. And as I've said for long now, I believe that the Ron Paul message needs to resonate. Even if people are uncomfortable with his foreign policy, his principles, and his, I think his staunch adherence to his principles for longer than any national politician I can identify has to be reckoned with and has to be, I think, honored. And I use that word on purpose, honored. You may not agree with the guy, but by golly, he is principled and he is stuck by his guns. And a lot of his constitutional principles are things we really need to take heart with and take a very close look at. And so I don't know what you're right. There seems to be this fear of Ron Paul. It's like, you know, get out the Death March from Star Wars. What Ron Paul just says? Get out of my life. You know, keep the big guys in Washington D.C. off my back. I don't know that that's a bad message. And yet the people in St. Charles County, I guess from what you're saying, are frightened of Brent Stafford, who is, of course, with the Ron Paul campaign. You say he did do a credible job 4 years ago. Was he with Ron Paul at that point or not?
You know what, he was. And it's time for people to confront the reality that Ron Paul is a Republican candidate, too. And when I was the chairman of the Central Committee, we had people whispering, oh, he's really a libertarian. Well, stop. Get over it. Okay, because here's the problem. Just what you said in the last segment about the Paul Ryan budget. I mean, there are too many wimps in Washington, D.C. who are afraid to cut the budget and do what's right and bring government back into its proper scope. And as long as people are afraid to do the right thing, we're not going to see. Both parties are trashing the country. They're both guilty. This is with the Republicans in charge. They're still bloating the budget, and nobody's apologizing to us. So I'm just saying, no, Brent Stafford is an honorable man. I was the chairman of the Central Committee, and I saw him being brutalized even while he was on the Central Committee, and all I did was stand up for one person and say, we're going to run things fair and square. We're not going to be mean and hateful to each other. And Brent has done nothing but help the Republican Party the whole time, and it's time for us to stop being afraid of what if we cut the budget. Let's just be brave instead. I'm just so sorry that it's come to this. But, you know, the caucus gave the public an opportunity to view what is wrong with the Republican Party, because it didn't just happen in St. Charles County. There were shenanigans all over the state. I've heard an earful of what happened everywhere, and it's based on this, what if we get people elected who really do cut the budget?
Well, right. I mean, look, the problem is the Republicans and to a lesser extent the Democrats, but really both of the major parties have become so, you talk about addiction. We've been talking about the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration, and narcotic addiction. Both parties are addicted to big money from big business. And, you know, that's largely what drives their, you know, their machines. And then they start getting full of themselves because they are the establishment and they don't listen to the little people. And in fact, Kelly had a run-in with the communications person for the Missouri GOP, which we will talk about after this break. And frankly, I'm beginning to question just how small our big R Republican Party is, Cynthia. And I now am keeping my eyes on these guys. I'm very, very frightened about that, what's going on in the Republican Party. Hey, what is your website?
It's votecynthia.com. And that's why you need a lieutenant governor who will hold them all accountable. It's time to hold the House accountable, the Senate accountable, the governor accountable. They all need a dose of raising the iron shade and letting the sun shine in. All right.
VoteCynthia.com? Vote Cynthia?
VoteCynthia.com. I send a newsletter out every week. You can sign up. Thanks so much.
Thank you, my friend. Tell Bernie hi, okay?
I will.
All right.